Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second day of our free week in software quality assurance testing offered by the Skill Wheel Academy. Yesterday, we talked about software testing basics, testing in general. We talked about requirements. Today, we're going to dive deep into the world of bugs. We'll learn about issues in the software, about glitches, failures, errors that you might have seen whenever you are using any type of software. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into our learning process. Grab a notebook, be ready to learn. All right, so as I said earlier, we talked about testing yesterday. Today, we're going to talk about bugs and about the next 3 days. So that would be SQL, Python, and test automation. So those upcoming 3 lessons are also going to be very beneficial, as you will learn something more technical than just the theory. Right? Starting tomorrow, you will write your first query to retrieve some data from the database. So that's going to be interesting. So that's SQL. Day 4, especially, you will learn how to write your first line of code in programming language Python. So stay tuned, keep attending, and be active till the end. All right. Okay. Today, we'll be answering a lot of questions related to bugs, related to defects, issues. First of all, we'll find out what the bug is, right? What is a bug? Also, where do bugs come from? Where do they come from? Right? So, who fixes the bugs? Who creates the bug reports, and who fixes the bugs? And why is it important to prevent the bugs as early as possible? And what would go wrong if we didn't? And also, another question would be, why can't developers fix their own bugs, right? So that would be an interesting question to ask, and actually be prepared to answer those questions. So we'll keep it interactive. And also, what if developer rejects your bug, right? So you as a tester, you're creating a bug. What if developer doesn't like the way that you created the bug, or just rejecting your bug report? So what are your actions? So some of these questions here are actually encountered in hiring interviews as well. So that's going to be beneficial, even if you are a newly beginner or you're someone who's in the market looking for your next opportunity. So let's start from this fun fact. First computer bug ever reported was in 1947. But that was not an ordinary bug that we would see in these days, right? We mean completely something else when we say bug these days in a software. But back then, the first computer bug was actually a moth found inside a huge computer, electromechanical computer at Harvard University. Those computers used to be as big as a room, that you might think. And then what they did was they actually had a failure, right? Something wasn't working right. And they had to, dive deep into the hardware, and then found that it was actually this creature stuck into the motherboard maybe. And then they just, took this out and then put it into the notebook and created this bug report, pretty much, right? And today, by the way, we're going to learn how to create a bug report, but then we are talking about actual software bugs these days. All right, so that brings us to the question of what is a bug. All right, so that's a question to the audience. So please go ahead and feel free to type into the chat. Right. So practice your question and answer abilities and skills. So in your understanding, what is a bug? What is a bug? What is a defect? An issue? Anything that you may come up with. Okay. All right. So I start seeing some answers. So yes, it's an issue. It is a malfunctioning, something that causes a malfunctioning. It's a flaw in coding or an error in coding. All right, good point. It's an error in the software. It's not an expected behavior. Here we go. So that's a good explanation, right? It's not an expected behavior. Now we're talking about expected and actual. So you were expecting something and then you received something unexpected, and that's what you call as a bug, right? Everybody, thank you for your active participation. Keep it that way. Here's the definition, right? It's one of the definitions that you could use in the hiring interviews. Basically, a bug is an unexpected behavior in computer software, and it is as simple as that, right? It's an unexpected behavior in computer software. We also refer to the bug as a defect and sometimes as an issue. It's a defect or an issue or a bug, and those can be used interchangeably depending on which organization, which team, whichever terminology you're used to. But the idea is the same. It's an unexpected behavior. Here's another definition for a bug. So bug is a difference. It's a difference between what? It's a difference between expected and the actual. Right? It's a difference between expected and the actual, right? Expected behavior or expected conditions that you might have, and the actual behavior or actual results that you get when you use the application, when you start testing the application, right? And sometimes the difference is referred to also as a discrepancy. It's a bit of fancy word. So the bug is a discrepancy between expected and actual, or the difference. In simple way, it's a difference, right? So here, imagine you are expecting a welcome message. So you're using a payment system. There's so many different payment systems nowadays. They can do all types of, person to person, a wire transfer from company to company. You're expecting, you just registered to the payment system and you're expecting a welcome message. Welcome, you can start accepting payments. But what you received was an error message, right? Oops, something went wrong. Please try again later. That is the difference between your expected behavior and then the actual behavior, right? So you were expecting a welcome message, but the actual result, actual outcome is an error message, right? This is when we create a bug report, right? We'll talk about bug report and we'll actually create one during the class today. Okay. Now that we know what the bug is, we know the definition of the bug. Where do they come from, right? Where do those bugs come from? Those issues, those glitches. What do you think? What do you think? What's the issue? What's the underlying issue? What is the problem behind that issue that we have bugs in the system? Why is that we have bugs? Why can't we create a system with no bugs, bug-free application? Why isn't it possible, right? Where do they come from? So go ahead and put it into the chat. So let's see your answers. Okay, so they come from an error in the code. So here's one. Another answer, errors in the code. Yes. Well, so why do you think there are errors in the code? Where do errors in the code come from? they come from unconsidered circumstances. There could be certain circumstances, yes, that were not taken into account. Interaction with other environment. Okay, so possible interaction. So yes, applications can have many integrations, and that could be the cause as well. So applications can be simple or complex. Programmer's mistake, simply human error. Yep, that too. Okay, so to summarize what participants put into as an answer is that it's an error in the code, it's a human error, it can be certain issues that are not taken into account. So to put it in simple terms, right? So we're going to see one simple workflow of how the bugs actually come into picture, right? So first, right, again, it's a very simple way of putting it. Software developer makes a mistake while coding. Human factor, right? So they're also human beings, software developers. They also, they might have completed 4-year degree, bachelor's degree. Maybe they completed the bootcamp. Doesn't really matter. They're still human beings, even if they are, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years of experience, senior developers. They are still human beings. They get tired, they get distracted. Maybe they have too much work to do at the same time and they miss something. They make some mistake, right? And mistakes can be like, instead of putting, let's say, greater than sign, they could put greater than equal. Or instead of putting less than an equal sign, they could just put less than, right? Or they could completely reverse the operator, or a comparison operator between different values in the code. And then, so what's the next step here, right? So there's a mistake in the code. What happens is that mistake leads to a bug, right? So that leads to a new bug in the application. So this little mistake, this human error, has just created a bug in the application. So what's the next step, and how do we see it? Testers or users, right? Testers and users will see the failure, such as an error message. So what you actually see is the failure, is the outcome of the bug, right? But we usually refer to it interchangeably, as we just call it as a bug. But really, what you're seeing is the outcome of the bug. You're seeing the failure of the system, right? Because there is a bug. So that's a workflow, right? To quickly go over this one more time. Developer making a mistake in the code, because they're human beings, right? They can make mistakes, human factor. That mistake is leading to a bug in the application, a new bug. And then as a tester, when you're testing the application, when you're interacting with the application, you see the outcome. You see some unexpected error message, some unexpected behavior, a wrong value, calculated. Let's say if it's a payment system, that you're sending, $100, but then the receiver is receiving more or less, and with no specific explanation. So that would be the failure, and that would be one of the scenarios of how bugs come into picture. Okay, hopefully we answered this question collectively with you guys, right? Now, the next question that we want to shed some light to is, who fixes the bugs? So let's go ahead and put this answer. That should be the easy one, right? Who fixes the bugs? Admins. Okay, so admins. So you mean administrators. And sometimes they do. Yes, the admin is more of a role. So you can be a developer and you can be assigned an admin role in the application. So developers, software engineers, and once again, developers. Yeah. You guys are all on the same page. Good work. Good work. All right. So let's first make it clear who doesn't fix, right? Because, you know, we're really trying to explore here the testing role. So we need to make sure we know what we don't do as well, right? So we don't fix the bugs, okay? So not the testers. Testers' job is to test and report. Your job is to test and report the unexpected behavior as bug reports. Okay? So you interact with the application, you observe the actual behavior, you compare it with your expected behavior, right? Where do you get your expectations from? So let's ask this question from the audience as well, right? So we keep saying expected and the actual. So where do you get your expectations from when you're testing the application, right? We covered this yesterday. Where do you get your expected behavior from? Manual or documents? Exactly. Yes. Right. So we're getting our expectations, our expected conditions, behavior from specifications, from documents, from requirements, or from by communicating to the end users. Right. All right. So that's our job, which is testing and reporting. We don't fix, right? And what is the role of the developer in this case would be that the developer will go through several steps before fixing, right? So they investigate the bug, they look into the bug report, and they read the bug report that you prepare. They go through the steps. They try to perform root cause analysis. Root cause analysis. That means they try to understand what went wrong, where exactly that issue is. And then they find that mistake that they made, right? When they were coding this, you know, putting this less than sign instead of the greater than sign in one, you know, line 147 in the code, right? So then they fix the bug and then report it back to testers. They let the testers know that the bug is fixed. Okay? So that's a separation of the responsibilities here, right? Who is responsible for what when it comes to bugs? As a tester, you are responsible to find the bug, to observe it, and then to report it. And developers are responsible to investigate it, to do some root cause analysis and fix it, and then let you know that the bug is fixed. Right? So it's this interaction, right? This interaction is very important though, right? Developers and testers, they're always communicating with each other. And one of the frequently asked interview question is also, how do you interact with the developers? Do you interact with the developers, right? So, and the answer in this kind of situation is yes, of course, on a daily basis. You know, I interact with the developers. We create bug reports. We communicate it to the developers, and then if they need any help, they can come back to us, and we can go to a meeting and then work on this together. So when we say work on this together, see, they might need some help with the root cause analysis. They might need some help understanding the bug that you created, right? We'll actually see, we have another question to answer, which is, what if they reject your bug? And we'll get there. We'll get there in today's session. That's an interesting scenario and one of the frequently asked interview questions. So if you look at those pictures on the right-hand side, also kind of gives you an idea of the separation of responsibility. So testers are here to break it, but the developers are here to make it. So you're pretty much trying to break it all the time. You're looking for the breaking points. You're trying to find the issues of where the developer could miss, where the developer could make a mistake. But that comes with experience again. You know, you don't have to be worried about, oh, what if I can't find any bugs? You will, believe me. So every application has tons of bugs. Here's another important question. Why to prevent the bugs early? Why is that we have to prevent those bugs, right? Why is it too dangerous it's not desirable that you find the bug too late? So what happens if you find the bug too late? And what is the difference, right? You find the bug earlier or too late, what would be the difference to the company and to the organization? So what do you think? Why do you think it's important to prevent the bugs as early as possible? And that's a reason why companies actually hire testers. I mean, bugs are the reason why why this testing role actually exists. So any ideas? Why do you think it is important to prevent the bugs? All right. So I see one answer, not to lose customers. Yeah. So I see one answer that says not to lose customers. Yes, you may actually lose customers because of a bug, because of a glitch in the system. The program could be launched with too many errors, right? If you launch the program with too many errors, and that could actually impact the company, right? Here we go. Another answer is save time and save money, right? Cost. Exactly. Early find bugs, cheaper. It will be cheaper for the company. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're all on the same page on this. So bugs, because the bugs that are missed and found later will cost a lot more in money and reputation to the company. Okay, so here's a diagram that you can take a look. So it's pretty much if you compare in a way that the issue that was found earlier while the application was being developed, right? While it's being planned and they're putting together the requirements and they're planning the design of the application. Even at that time, they could prevent some issues that might happen in the future. But if they miss, right? If the whole team, there are so many layers, right? There's this business analyst role looking into it. There are developers looking into it. There are subject matter experts, and then the testing team comes. They're looking into the whole bunch of requirements, documentation, and the application itself. And the users themselves also test. So you don't have to be bothered too much about this, the whole steps of development lifecycle at the moment, because that's something that's covered during the bootcamp in detail. That's something that we call as the software development lifecycle. So now, if you look at these numbers at the last stage, right, when the application is available to everyone, when the application is live, we call it as going live, right? That at that moment, the issues can cost from 30 to 100 times more, than if it was found earlier in the phase. Okay, so that's the reason. That's the reason why companies hire testers. Okay. All right. So let's actually see some of the examples of big failures in the systems that cost millions of dollars and reputation to the companies. Okay. So here's one. Spacecraft crashes due to a bug. Okay. So this particular spacecraft in 1962 NASA spacecraft on its way to Venus crashed 5 minutes after the launch, right? So and it costed, at that time in 1962, it costed $18.5 million. In today's dollars, it would be $166 million. And you would be surprised to find out what the issue was, right? So the issue was a letter R, just pay attention closely, the letter R was used instead of the R bar in specification document. Okay, so don't ask me what R bar stands for. I'm not, I don't work for NASA, so I don't know what that means. But the fact is that that simple difference between the R and then the R bar, right? It probably meant something for a specific calculation. And they missed this R bar, right? So this R was used instead of this symbol in the documentation. Who prepared the documentation, they missed it. And what's the next step in chain of events? What comes after the documentation, right? Somebody will code based on that documentation. So developer basically coded the logic behind the spacecraft based on this mistake, and that was the cause, right? Pretty much that simple documentation issue costed NASA $166 million in today's money, right? So that's that's one of the brilliant examples of why it is so important to review the documentation very closely, and it should be reviewed by not only one person or one layer, by several teams. And it's important to involve QA team also as early as possible, not after everything is coded and everything is ready. That will be too late. Here's another example. Some of the examples actually in banking applications, right? So bugs in banking applications. So bank accidentally deposits $50 billion in some family's account. That's they will probably take that money back, but not always. What if that person already spent the money? They would have to go through the lawsuit and all that. That's going to cost money to the bank, and also reputation. You would be cautious next time, right? Whenever you want to use that particular bank, right? So here's another one. So a man splashes 420,000 pounds accidentally transferred. So the money was accidentally transferred to someone's account, and then they started spending it on gold bars, makeups, and clothes and stuff, right? So that happens from time to time. It's definitely due to a bug in the application that costs a lot of money and reputation to the financial institutions. So speaking of financial institutions, crypto platforms have become so famous and widely used in recent years, and especially because the whole concept is new. Those crypto platforms have also been famous for glitches and bugs. And as you can see here, accidentally the platform is sending 7.1 million instead of $68. Another user receives 90 million and they're asking it back. So when you read something like this on the news, and then you understand, okay, this is a Coinbase, or this is like a Robinhood crypto platform, and you would be, next time you're going to be very cautious and you try to take your money out of that platform, right? So that's going to cost them the customers, and that's money and the reputation for sure, right? So that would be some of the examples of why it is so important to prevent the defects, and why companies are ready to spend money to hire testers. And this will continue being so, right? There is a demand for testers, and you can see the reason why, right? Alrighty. So that brings us to a concept of bug lifecycle. So we need to understand how bugs come into picture, how bugs start in the whole process, right? In the workflow of an organization, and how it moves through different hands, from hand to hand, from developer to QA, right? We need to understand this interaction. So the way it starts is that you find the bug, right? You as a tester, you found your first bug, you're happy, and you're reporting that bug. And usually at the beginning, the status is new. It's a new bug, basically, right? Today, actually, we're going to create a bug report, and you will see the status is there, and it's going to make a lot more sense. So you found a bug. At that moment, the status of the bug is new. It's a new bug. So what happens to the bug after you create the bug report, right? Someone from the development team will analyze the bug. They will look into the bug. They will look into your bug report, the screenshots that you might have attached, any details, any description that you might have put in there, right? They will read it attentively and then make a decision. They will make a decision. So is it a valid defect? What does that mean? Is it a valid defect? It means that, is it actually a defect, or the tester is maybe making a mistake, right? Maybe tester understood the requirement incorrectly, and they have incorrect expectation, and that's why they thought it's a bug, but it's really not a bug. It is the design. It's the way it's supposed to be, right? If they think that way, they can reject your bug. Okay, so they can just reject the bug. That would be the end, pretty much the end of it. I mean, another conversation, another workflow follows this rejection, and we'll cover that as a separate question, right? What if developer rejects your bug? What are your actions? This is, by the way, one of the frequently asked interview question if you go out as a tester. So another scenario here is that if they think, okay, this is a valid bug, this looks like a valid bug, valid issue, but is it in scope? What does that mean? Is it in scope? It means that, were we planning to fix it now, like, in this project, or is it something that you are just suggesting as a tester, right? Tester might be suggesting from time to time, like, this has to be fixed, or this new feature has to be added. And in that case, it's not really a bug, but it's a suggestion, or even if it's an issue, that can be fixed later on. Not right now, but maybe after 2 weeks, right? That's something that we call as sprints or cycles, right? We deliver the software in pieces, and then we plan what to deliver until what deadline, right? We can't deliver everything in 2 weeks, right? So teams, they have a plan. They have a plan. This week, upcoming 2 weeks, we're going to work on the registration page, right? Or the sign up page, right? So they have a plan. And if the issue is coming up and it's not in scope of the next 2 weeks, it can become deferred, right? The issue can become deferred. Deferred means, I know it's a bug, I know it's an issue, but we're going to fix it later. That's what it means, okay? So another scenario is, well, okay, so it is in scope, it is an issue, it's a valid issue, but it was already reported by your friend. So, you could have 2 or 3 testers working on the same project, and you might actually end up reporting the same issue twice, right? So it could happen. If that's the case, then developer would mark it as a duplicate. They would say, it's a duplicate, guys, take a look, it's a duplicate. And be more attentive next time. Please don't create duplicate bug reports, right? So if all goes well, right? If it's a valid defect, it's in scope, it has to be fixed now, there's not a duplicate, that leads to the next step, which is developer starts fixing it. In that case, it would be in progress, right? The status of the bug is in progress at that moment. That means somebody's doing some root cause analysis and trying to find out what the issue is and trying to fix it. So when they fix it, you might guess the next step. They will mark the defect as fixed, right? Instead of in progress, the bug report becomes fixed. That's like a I'm done moment for the developers, right? But then, it comes back to you. They will reassign the defect back to you. They will report it back to you. So they will say, hey, defect is fixed. Why don't you go ahead and take a look? And your action in this case as a tester would be to retest it, right? So you are going to retest it. At the beginning, you started from testing, right? You were testing, but now you're retesting. That's a difference. Retesting is when you test the same functionality again after the defect has been fixed, right? So when you retest or rerun, re-execute the same test case again, you will see, you might see a different behavior or you might see the same behavior, right? So if the test case passes, that means if the issue is gone, high five, all good, then that means you can close the defect. That's a great moment, right? You found the defect, you communicated, it came back as fixed, you retested, and it's fixed, right? So you're happy about it. You contributed to the quality of the applications. You did something good for the organization. You prevented this, $166 million cost and reputation to the company. So what if the issue is still there? So you're retesting and you can still see the same issue again. In that case, you reopen. Logical, right? Guys, it's pretty logical. So you reopen. At the beginning, you start with a new, you open the defect basically, but now you have to reopen the same defect again. So that's the idea, right, guys? So it's pretty logical. If you go through this, very logical, nothing complicated in that workflow. So what we're going to do next is that we're going to create our first bug report. All right, so that's going to be interesting. So here's what we're going to do. To create a bug report, we're going to bring in the same application that we were using yesterday, right? That particular application's or tool's name is Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps. All right. So in Azure DevOps, here we have one sample test case, that we're going to execute. And the test case is about page. It's about the about page, basically, right? View about, verify that about page is displayed. Okay, you can take a look into the test case and its steps for sure. So the steps are similar to what we did yesterday. Yesterday we were testing the login steps, and we still have those login steps. But then at the end, we need to click on the menu button and then select About option. And the expected result is that About page should display, right? This test case is created based on the requirement documentation. Our task today is to execute it and then see if it passes or fails. If it fails, then we're going to create a bug report. Okay, so that's the plan. That is the plan, guys. All right. So to execute our test, we're going to go to the Execute tab, select the particular test case that you want to run, and click run for web application. Okay, so as soon as you click run for web application, on the left-hand side, you have test execution tab, which lists us, which lists up all the steps that you need to execute. First step here is that go to the link of the website, right? The saucedemo.com. So we pretty much navigated to this web page, and the expected result is the login page should display. Did it pass? Yes, it did display. Now, enter a valid username. We're going to enter a username, and it should accept. It should accept. We're deliberately entering the problem user because it's for testing purposes, just to see defects in the system. Okay, but it's still a valid username though. All right, so that passed. Enter a valid password. So we're going to enter a valid password. Expected result is that the password should be masked. So whenever I'm entering a password, no one should see what I'm entering. That's true. Okay, so now click login. All right, let's go ahead and click login. All right, so what do we have? We have products list screen display. Okay, we have products list screen displayed. We have some issues there, but that's not the point of testing, right? At this moment, we're going further. We're trying to test the about page. So where do we get to the about page? We click on the menu. As you can see, that's what this step says. Click menu button and select about option. So we're going to click on the menu and select the about option. Okay, here we go. What did we receive? Our expected result was about page was supposed to be displayed, right? But what we received here is something different, right? What we received here is an error 404, as you can see here, and it says, uh-oh, this page got lost in the web. All right, and you can see it in the link here as well that it's a 404 error message. So that's an unexpected behavior that we just encountered in the system, right? That's a failure. That failure happened because of some bug in the system. So what's the next step? We're going to fail that step. So in the left-hand side right here, we are failing that step. And we can put a comment here, say that the 404 error message displayed instead of about page. Okay, so we failed it, all right? So now we can create a bug report. We can create a bug report. So you can see that. So first of all, let's go ahead and then fail that test, right? The whole test is also failed. And we can create a bug right from the screen. You see that it says create a bug. So I will click on this. And it pops up a new window to create a new bug report for us. Okay. So the first thing that you need to enter when you're creating a new bug report is the bug title, right? So title of the bug or name of the bug. Just like when we were creating a test case, we have to give a name to the test case, right? So this way you need to give a name to a bug report as well. So how can we name this bug report? Okay, so you can let me know, what do you think? How can we name this bug when we're creating a bug report? How would you name this bug? How would you name this issue? You can type it in the chat. All right. 404 error. Yeah. Okay. About page display error. We could name it about page display error. Good point. So when you're giving a name to your bug report, or you're coming up with a name for your test case, try to be as concise as possible and also be as informative as possible, right? So we can say getting 404 error message when viewing about screen. Okay, sounds good. All right. Now, what you see right here, state is a new. You see that when you're creating a new bug, it is in a new status. Remember, we looked into the life cycle of the bug, right? It starts with a new, and then it moves on to the to different types of possible scenarios and potentially fixed and then closed, right? Or reopened and so on. So when you create a bug, you can also assign it to someone. Okay, so you can assign it to someone, as you can see here, right? So there's one tester here, Anna, and there's one developer here, Oliver. So we're going to go ahead and assign it to Oliver, developer. So right away, we're creating the bug, and we know that Oliver is assigned to this project, and we're going to assign it to Oliver. Okay? All right. Now, what else? We also need to select the priority and severity of the defect. So what's a priority and what's a severity? Priority is basically how fast the defect should be fixed. Now, about page. Now, do you think it has to be fixed immediately? What do you think? It's an about page. Do you think it has to be fixed immediately, like right now? What happens if it's not fixed right away? Or it can be fixed a little later, right? It can be fixed a little later, right? Because it's an about page. It's not like a critical functionality. It's just an information about the application. So we can put the priority as not the number one, but it can be pretty much, priority can be low. Okay, so that would be number 4. Severity, that is the impact of this functionality to the whole application. Right? Does it impact the whole application at a very high level? Does it cause a crash to the application, or can you still use the application without about page? You can, right? It's not like you cannot log in, right? If you couldn't log in, that would be a number 1 priority, right? But it's not. So it's priority is low, severity is also low because it doesn't impact much, right? So priority is about timing, when the defect should be fixed. Severity is about the impact, right? How severely the issue is impacting the application. Okay, so root cause, you can give a root cause. You might think that it's a coding issue. That's okay. So you could give some sort of a hint to the developer that's probably a coding issue. So most important piece of information, apart from the priority, severity, root cause, and the name and the status of the bug report, is the steps to reproduce. Steps to reproduce. As you can see here, it says repro steps, right? So that's the most important piece of information that is in the bug report. So what is this? This is basically the steps that you took before you saw the error message, before you encountered this failure, the bug in the system, in the application, right? Well, why is it important? It's important because the developer who will be fixing this bug also needs to investigate and then see that bug, see that failure, right? So they have to follow these steps. If you just say, I saw some 404 error message in the application and don't provide any steps, developer would be confused, like, where exactly did you see it? What were you doing? What steps were you taking when this error message happened? So you need to be as detailed as possible. All right, so luckily in test management tools such as Azure DevOps, steps to reproduce is automatically populated, right? It is coming automatically, as you can see, from the test case. In some of the systems, you might have to type it in manually, basically. Okay, so everything's fine. Basically, we are pretty much done creating our bug report. We assign it to the developer. Okay. What am I missing? Right. So we need to add some evidence. We need to add a screenshot. So we can add a screenshot. It's very easy to add a screenshot. So in your computer, usually you have a snipping tool right here. So I'm going to show you how snipping tool works. That's a snipping tool, right? So you're going to get the snipping tool and take a screenshot, something like that, right? We took a screenshot, go back to your bug report, and right in the pretty much in the discussion board right here, you can paste it and hit enter. There we go. So this is done. See that? It's right here. It is pretty much in the, you just placed it. You can also put a comment here by when you by @. If you just type in an @, it will give you the list of users. So you can say Oliver, you know, please let me know when this can be fixed, and thanks. Right? So you're pretty much done with your bug report. Next step is we'll go ahead and save and close it. Okay, we'll save and close. And here as well, we were executing our test case. We'll save and close our test case too. Then let's go back to our Azure DevOps as a tester. As you can see, our test case has just failed. And we also created a bug report. And our bug report right here, do you see that? It's this little bug icon here. We created a bug report that is assigned to a developer, and the status is currently new. Okay, the status is currently new. All right. So what happens when you assign this to a developer, right? From developer perspective, let's take a look at the account of the developer here as well. Okay, so let's refresh. And developer right here would see, as you can see, that a defect was assigned to the developer, to Oliver, right? You can see that assigned to me, there is one defect right here that's assigned to developer. And developer would go ahead and take a look at this right here, go into the content, review your steps, and work on it. And they can accept it, right? They will say, okay, oh, this is a valid defect. They will go ahead and try to fix it. And while they're fixing it, while the developer is fixing the bug is going to be in progress. Okay, so they can go ahead and put a comment at the bottom here, and they might say, Anna, working on it. Okay, so save it and good, and close it. After they fix it, basically, right? We're not really going to fix it, but after they fix it, after the developer fixes the bug, they will go back again into the bug report, and they will change the status. They will change the status to fixed. They will change the status to fixed, and then they will let you know right here. Right? They will let you know right here. They will say, Anna, all right, so this is fixed. Please retest. Okay, this is fixed. Please go ahead and retest. One thing that they do after they mark it as fixed is that they assign it back to you. Okay, now the owner is no longer Oliver. It is actually now the Anna, the QA tester, right? They will assign it back to you as a tester. So it goes back to you. Now it's your turn to go ahead and test it, retest it, actually, right? Now you have to retest it because it's fixed. So let's go back. Now this is Anna's profile again. This is the QA tester's profile. So if you go ahead and refresh it, you can see that the bug is fixed and it is assigned to you as a tester, right? So your job in this case would be, okay, open and then take a look if there's any comments potentially from the developer. Okay, no particular comment, this is fixed, then you just have to retest. All right, so how do you retest? You go back to the same test case. You go back to the same test case that you executed pretty much, okay? And then you go ahead and try to rerun the same test case again. That's retesting. You don't just go ahead and interact with the application. You have to rerun your test case. So we'll go ahead and click the run for web application one more time, okay? So it gives this pop-up menu right here in the left-hand side, and then we'll go to the application again, and then we'll try to retest. Okay, we'll try to retest. So again, we're on the same page, on the login page. This worked fine. We're going to enter the username, right? We're going to enter the username. We're assuming that the bug is fixed, right? And we're entering the password. It is masked. All good. We're going to click on the login, and you can see that, okay, I'm on the products page, all passed. Now, the final moment. Now we need to check if the about page still has that error message, or that error message is gone, it was fixed. So we're going to click on the about page, and you can see that we don't see that error message anymore, right? No error message. So looks like developer has fixed. So what you're going to do is that you're going to pass that test, that particular step, and the whole test case as well. Okay, make sure you save it. You can save and close. You can save and close. And your test case is passed right here. But don't forget one thing, you need to close the defect. We need to close the defect as well. So we're going to go back to the work items where we have our defects, right? We're going to open that defect, that bug report, and we can put a new screenshot right here, right? So that's our new screenshot, and we'll take a new screenshot right here using our snipping tool, okay? Our snipping tool, and right here, we can put the new screenshot and then say retested and closed, right? So I don't see the issue anymore. So save that, make sure you change the status from fixed to closed, and save it, and go back to work items, and this is gone, right? It's closed. The defect has been closed. Alrighty, so we basically, guys, went through the whole process of executing the test case, executing our test case. We found an issue while we were executing our test case, right? We saw a 404 page not found error message. And then we created a bug report. We assigned that bug report to the developer. Developer reviewed our bug report, and the bug became in progress, right? Developer was working on it. They fixed it eventually. They assigned the bug back to us. And then we went back and then retested. And we made sure that the issue is no longer present. And then we closed the bug, right? We closed the bug report, right? So this is basically a demo or an example of how you would create a bug report. Most of the work that QA testers would do is actually based on common sense. Based on common sense. What we're looking into right now is manual testing. This is what we call as manual testing. And you can see that you really don't need any type of degree, educational degree, to perform. You don't have to study 4 years to find an issue and then report it back and take some screenshots and attach it to the bug report, right? So this is the reason why QA testing has become as one of the easiest roles in IT industry, right? It has been being used as a door to enter the IT industry. But again, guys, this is not me trying to make it sound like it's too easy. As I explained in the previous session, manual testing is just part of it, right? But the trend nowadays, and it will continue being so, that the trend is more into test automation, because the companies, they're trying to save more money. They're trying to keep fewer resources, and the human beings should really be spending time on things that really needs human touch, rather than spending their time on routine items and works which can be automated, right? So keep that in mind. All right, so let's review some of the examples of bug reports one more time. So this is the example that we just saw in the Azure DevOps, right? So, but this is not the only tool. There are many different tools, and here's another tool which is called as a Jira. We covered that too during the bootcamp, and you can create an issue, a bug report in Jira as well. So Jira initially has been a bug tracking tool, but then it developed into more of like a test management capabilities as well. Here's another tool called ALM, Application Lifecycle Management. Again, in there as well, you can create a new defect, new bug report, and then write down all the steps, like who's it assigned to and what type of testing you were performing. What are the steps reproduced? As you can see, this is mostly written in manually in this case. Azure DevOps being a really a nice one. So that brings us to one of the final questions that we want to answer today, which is, what if developer rejected your bug? So that could be the possibility that the developer might actually reject your bug report. What would you do, right? So here's one hint for you guys, that the first step would be you have to understand the reason for reject. Okay, so what do you think is the next step? What do you think could be one of the next steps? So feel free to put into the chat, what would you do if developer rejected the defect that you created? You spent so much time finding that defect, you finally reported that defect, but the developer rejected it. So what would you do? Okay, so feel free. All right, say you would organize a call. Yeah, that is correct, right? So that's one of the correct answers. So you would actually go ahead and organize a call, try to fix it yourself. Well, everybody appreciates your passion to be more technical and to take the role of a developer, but really fixing the defects, it is the job of the developer. So you wouldn't try to fix it yourself, for sure, but you can work with them and you can make suggestions, and it's always best, I mean, if you have time, of course, right? Usually testers and everybody in the team is short in time. You don't have too much time. So if you have time, then it's good to look into the code and then try to suggest something to the developer. That would be nice. You would improve your technical skills for sure. All right, so next step basically would be try to recreate the bug again. Try to recreate the bug again. Okay, so that means try to reproduce it. Try to reproduce the bug one more time. it really depends on the reason for rejection, actually. If the developer said, I'm rejecting your bug because I don't see that issue in my computer, right? I'm testing it. And I'm also I'm following the steps that you just gave me, and I don't see any issue. And that could be because maybe you gave a wrong steps, right? Maybe your steps that you put inside the bug report were not complete. They were not complete steps, right? So maybe you missed a step, and that's why they cannot recreate it. So therefore, it is important that you try to reproduce the bug, and one more time, and provide more evidence. They might reject and say, again, I don't see any evidence. It's not a bug. Try to be as detailed as possible and attach more evidence. You can retest again and then find the bug again and then attach some evidence and then send it over to the developer. And it's also very important to have this close conversation with the developer. So you go ahead and organize a call. Organize a call like a call that we're having right now, more of a more interactive call where you can share your screen and then work together with the developer so that they also can share their screens and then show you, and then you will eventually be able to help the developer to recreate the bug so that they can understand and then fix it eventually. Okay, so that is the approach basically. So understand the bug, right? Understand the reason for reject, and then try to reproduce it, try to recreate it, provide more evidence if necessary, organize a call with the developer. If necessary, include your QA manager or your QA lead to the call too. Developer might do the same. Developer might invite their senior lead or someone so that, whenever there is this kind of disagreement, usually it's better to involve someone higher standing as well. So meanwhile, right, here's a question to everybody. Why can't developers, find all the bugs themselves, right? Why can't developers test themselves? Why do you think we need testers? I mean, developers know the application better than we do, right? Because they're more technical than we are. Why do you think developers can't test and just find all the bugs and then just get rid of all the bugs before even it comes to us? What do you think? All right, so here is the answer. So time consuming for them, right? Yeah, they have their time limits, right? They have their time constraints. They have to finish development by August 28th, and QA testing has to start after that. So time constraint, one, their time costs 2 times more than a tester and might be in a tight schedule. That's another very good point there. Yes, developers' time cost more than the tester's time. So those are some of the reasons. Thank you. I really appreciate your participation. At the same time, another reason why developers are not testers, are not at the same level as testers in testing, is because they are biased. Right? So when you create something, when you spend so much time to write the code, right? You put in your effort, your time, your nerves and everything right into writing that code. You tend not to see the issues, right? So that's a human nature, that because this is yours, this is the piece of work that you just created, and you are not ready to criticize it. You're not ready to criticize it. You are biased. You cannot objectively look at the application and say this is where it might go wrong, right? So your thinking would be it's working fine. It should be working fine, right? So that would be one of the reasons why it's best to have someone who's ready to break it, right? Who's ready to attack the application in such a way, so I'm gonna find all the issues here, right? But then again, it's not only about breaking it or finding all the defects. You can't find all the bugs. You can only decrease the risk of the application going to the production with some going live with some huge issue, right? So your task as a tester would be to test based on the requirement documents and then report any differences. And also, if you keep doing this, as time passes, you become more and more professional, and you will have better eye to catch the issues, basically, right? From your experience of testing similar applications in the past. Yep, and based on basically the conversations with the developers, you can at the end either reopen or close the bug, right? So that would be the final point in your discussion, basically.